When my estranged birth mother died, she left me a dusty old ranch in the middle of nowhere, Texas. I thought it was a fresh start, but then I found the envelope. 8 rules, handwritten in red ink. And every time I broke one, something inside the house changed. I swear to God, I saw the barn breathe. Now I'm trapped on cursed land I never asked for. And whatever lives here, it knows I don't belong. Asterisk, when the lawyer first called me, I was in the middle of folding laundry in my 1-bedroom apartment in Phoenix. Life hadn't exactly been kind to me. I was a 27-year-old orphan bouncing between meaningless jobs, a string of relationships that didn't last longer than a few months, and the gnawing hole in my gut that always whispered one word: why? Why did she leave me? Why did she never come back? Why now? I didn't even know her name. All I ever had were the files from child services and a single note left in the basket I was found in, scrawled in shaky cursive. His name is Eli. Keep him safe. Do not tell him about me until I am gone. I used to hate her. Then I got tired of hating her. Now, I didn't feel anything at all. So when that old school lawyer, Mr. Beringer, said the words, "Your biological mother has passed away and left you a property in Bastrop County, Texas," I thought it was a scam. Then the documents arrived in a black leather folder, official seal, notarized, the works. Inside were keys, coordinates, a deed with my name typed in bold, and one sealed envelope that said, "Open only when you arrive." I left that night. I know, crazy, but something about the entire thing felt inevitable, like I was being pulled by a thread I didn't even know had been tied around my neck since birth. The drive from Phoenix to rural Texas was long and silent. My mind played scenarios over and over. Maybe it was a hidden mansion. Maybe I was rich now. Maybe this was fate finally turning in my favor. Maybe she hadn't hated me after all. But the moment I turned onto the dirt road that led to the ranch, my engine stalled. Dead. Just like that. I hadn't even gotten out of the car, and already the place was choking the life out of anything that moved. Thick, low-hanging fog blanketed the field. The sky above looked bruised, swollen with a storm that refused to break. Wind rustled the grass, but it didn't feel like wind. It felt like breath, like something was watching. The ranch sat like a carcass rotting in the middle of the field. An old Victorian farmhouse, weathered gray and leaning like it wanted to. Collapsed but couldn't. A red barn in the back loomed like a sentinel. Its doors were cracked open just enough to suggest something had just walked out. I stepped onto the porch. The wood groaned under my weight. The front door was already unlocked, and inside, silence. Heavy, like the house had been holding its breath for years. Waiting for me to walk in. On the entry table was the sealed envelope. That my name was written in red ink, and underneath it, rules for Eli, do not ignore. I opened it and found this. The rules read aloud in her voice. The paper smelled like burnt sage and old perfume. 1. Never stay outside after sundown. They come when the sky turns red. 2. Lock all doors by 6:59 p.m. Not 7. Never 7. 3. Do not answer any knocks after dark, even if it sounds like me. Especially if it sounds like me. 4. The barn is off limits. You were born in that barn. That's why it calls to you. Ignore it. 5. If you hear music from the attic, burn sage and hide in the pantry. Do not investigate. 6. The man in the mirror is not you. Don't talk to him. Don't let him out. 7. On the last night of each month, the ranch resets. Bury something you love in the backyard to survive it. 8. If the crows go silent, run. I laughed. Like, actually laughed. The kind of laugh you do when you're sleep deprived and losing your mind. Then I noticed something. That my reflection in the hallway mirror hadn't laughed. It stared back, stone-faced, and it winked. That I should have left that night. I should have burned the entire damn place down and walked until my feet bled. But I didn't, because curiosity is a stronger force than fear, at least in the beginning. That night, I broke 2 rules, and the ranch woke up. Night 1. Rule number 1 and number 2 broken. I spent the evening exploring the house. Dust coated everything like ancient skin. Family photos, blurred faces, or scratched out with jagged knife marks. A baby crib in a locked room. A portrait of a woman in a rocking chair, her eyes completely black. That I was too distracted to notice the time. The sun had set, and I hadn't locked the doors. The wind picked up. Then the sky turned crimson, like blood smeared across the clouds from The barn. I heard a sound I still struggle to describe. It wasn't human, not animal. It was a calling, like someone trying to say my name through a throat full of glass. LOL. I ran to the door, too late that a shadow was standing just beyond the porch to no eyes. Just a slit for a mouth. Grinning. It reached for the handle. I slammed the deadbolt shut a second before it touched it. And from every window in the house, I saw copies of it. Dozens, all staring in, pressing against the glass, whispering in unison, should've. Followed the rules. That night, I slept in the pantry. Not that I really slept, the house groaned. Whispers moved through the walls. At exactly 3:03 a.m., I heard a knock on the front door, then a woman's voice, sweet, familiar, like honey curdling. In my ear, Eli, baby, it's mommy. Let me in. She sounded like I imagined she would. Warm. Kind. I almost opened the door. Then I remembered rule #3. I curled into a ball and wept until sunrise. The next morning, everything looked normal. No shadows. No crimson sky, but the portrait in the hall, the one with the woman in the rocking chair, had changed. She was now smiling and cradling a baby in her lap. A baby with eyes just like mine. They say that inherited property is never truly a gift. It's a burden wrapped in legal paper and dusty keys. But in my case, it was worse. I had inherited a curse. After my first night at the ranch, I woke up disoriented, sore, and convinced. I had dreamt most of it. But when I walked into the hallway and saw the portrait of the woman, the same one who used to sit emotionless in her rocking chair, now cradling a baby with my eyes, that was the moment I knew the house was changing. Because of me. I spent the morning wandering the perimeter of the property, trying to get a signal on my phone, but every bar was dead. GPS spun like a broken compass. The road behind the ranch, gone. Just a field of yellow grass and a dense wall of trees that hadn't been there the night before. It was like the ranch had closed in around me, like it had sealed the door behind me and thrown away the key. The envelope was still on the table. I kept reading those 8 rules again and again, trying to understand them, trying to figure out why. Why the times? Why the rituals? Why would my mother want me here, of all places, alone? And then I noticed something new written on the back of the rules page. A line in black ink that hadn't been there yesterday. You've already broken 2 rules, Eli. You won't survive breaking a 3rd. My throat tightened. Was the ranch keeping count? That night, I followed every rule like my life depended on it. Which, frankly, it probably did. I locked every door by 6:45 p.m. I turned off every light before sunset. I kept away from the barn. And when I saw the man in the mirror, grinning again, I covered every reflective surface in the house with towels. But around midnight, I heard it, faint, far away. A soft music box melody drifting down from the attic above my room. A lullaby. Rule number 5. If you hear music from the attic, burn sage and hide in the pantry. Do not investigate. I held my breath, heart hammering. The tune kept playing, soft, sweet, and eerily familiar. Like something from a memory I never made. I rushed to the kitchen. No sage. None. I tore through drawers, cabinets, the cupboards in the pantry. Nothing. Not even incense. I was out of time. The music grew louder. Then, the attic stairs creaked open on their own. I broke rule #5. I couldn't help it. I grabbed the only thing I had, a butcher knife from the kitchen, and started up the stairs. The attic door was open, like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. Every step felt heavier than the last. The moment my foot touched the attic floorboards, the music stopped. I stood in the darkness, frozen. My breath puffed in the cold air. It shouldn't have been that cold. Something moved in the far corner. I raised the knife. Who's there? I said, voice shaking. No answer. Just the faint sound of something wet, dragging. Then a voice from the darkness whispered, "You're not supposed to be up here." A shape crawled out from behind the old crates. Not walked, crawled. Its arms were bent backward, head twisted upside down. A mouth stretched all the way across its cheekbones. No eyes. It smelled me. I stepped back. The floor groaned. It charged. I slammed the attic door shut just in time, but not before something scraped my arm. I didn't look at the wound. I just threw myself into the pantry and stayed there till morning, clutching the knife and praying that whatever was up there couldn't figure out the door handle. The next morning, the house had shifted against sunlight. crept through the blinds like it was scared to come in. The attic door was closed. No sign it had ever been open, but when I looked at the wall in the hallway, something new had appeared. A photo frame, black and white. A young man standing on the porch. In his hands was a baby. He looked just like me. Same eyes, same birthmark on the left cheek. Only, it wasn't me. It was dated 1974. The inscription at the bottom read, Eli, Day 1. I didn't sleep the next night. Every hour brought new horrors. Crows watching from the trees, silent. The woman in the mirror whispering lullabies in a voice I remembered from my dreams. And worst of all, around 2:47 a.m., I caught a glimpse of someone walking in the field outside. Not a shadow, not a ghost, a woman, with jet black hair in a white dress soaked in red. She was smiling. It was my mother. I tried to leave. I grabbed my keys, packed my bag, ran to the truck. It started. For the first time in days, it started. I floored it. The driveway stretched out ahead, gravel flying behind me. But after 15 minutes of driving, I was back at the house. I'd driven in a circle. The ranch wouldn't let me go. When I stepped out of the truck, there was a new note on the windshield, written in the same red ink. 3 rules broken, Eli. You're part of the land now. I screamed, threw the note into the wind, punched the side of the truck until my knuckles bled. I didn't care anymore. Whatever this place was, whatever it wanted, it had me. I walked back into the house like a prisoner returning to his cell. Only, this time, the walls were pulsing, breathing, and the attic door? It was open again. The truth begins to bleed through. That night, I dreamed. Not normal dreams, memories, but not mine. They belonged to her. My mother. I saw a ritual in the barn. A circle of women in cloaks. A baby in the center. The ground beneath them soaked in blood. She was crying, refusing to go through with it. The others forced her. The baby opened his eyes, black voids, and smiled. I woke up screaming. There was blood on the floor. A trail from my bedroom to the barn door. It was open and waiting. Fire. Previous rules broken. Rule number 1. Never stay outside after sundown. Crossmark. Rule number 2. Lock all doors by 6:59 p.m. Crossmark. Rule number 5. If you hear music from the attic, burn sage and hide in the pantry. Do not investigate. Crossmark. The barn door was open. There was blood on the steps. A trail of it leading from the hallway, through the yard, and straight into that black mouth waiting for me. And I don't mean metaphorically. I saw it breathe. The wooden slats of the barn inhaled, pulling in the dry Texas air, and exhaled mist so cold it curled along the dirt. I stood at the edge of the porch, eyes locked onto the barn like prey watching the jaws of something ancient. And still, I stepped forward. The pull of the 4th rule, the barn is off limits. You were born in that barn. That's why it calls to you. Ignore it. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. The ranch wasn't just haunted, it was alive. And the barn? It was the heart. Each step across the field felt heavier, like I was walking through mud. The air turned syrup thick. Every sound dulled. Even the crows, who had screamed at me all morning, fell dead silent. I reached the barn door. The wood was warm, too warm, like skin holding fever. I gripped the handle. The moment I stepped inside, I remembered being born, but not as a child. A thing. Inside the barn, a return to the womb. It wasn't a barn anymore. Not really. The structure had collapsed inward long ago. But inside, space bent. It was impossible. The barn was bigger on the inside. Endlessly tall. Columns made of bone, not wood. Hay that shifted like it had something squirming beneath it. I saw a cradle. Old, splintered, rocking on its own. Above it, something hung from the rafters. A cocoon made of stitched-together skin. It pulsated like it was breathing, and then I heard the voice. Not out loud. In my mind. A soft, motherly whisper. Welcome back, my son. The others have been waiting. I turned around. There were figures standing in the stalls. Each wore a hooded cloak. Faces hidden, but I could feel their eyes, drilling into my bones. One stepped forward and pulled the hood back. It was me, but not me. His eyes were solid black. Skin too smooth. Smiling too wide. You've done well to survive this long, he said. 4 rules remain. But you'll break them. You always do. I backed away, but the cradle creaked louder. The cocoon above began to tear, something inside. It was waking up. I ran. Out the barn, across the field, back into the house, slamming doors, locking them, boarding windows. But when I looked into the hallway mirror, it was no longer my reflection. It was him. The version of me from the barn that he smiled and whispered through the glass. She didn't give you away because she didn't love you. She gave you away because she couldn't kill you. The journal and the floorboards that night, I tore up the bedroom floor. Literally. I didn't know why. I just felt it. Like my hands were being guided. Beneath the floorboards was a leather-bound journal, burnt around the edges. Pages torn. It was hers, my mother's. Pages from my mother's journal. The midwives wore cloaks. Said it was tradition. They told me the baby wasn't normal, that I had carried a seed, not a child. They made me bleed into a bowl. They said the land must be fed too. He was born with no cry, just a stare. His eyes were black, no whites, just void. And when I picked him up, he smiled and whispered my name. A newborn should not speak. I tried to leave. The ranch wouldn't let me. Each time I crossed the fence, I'd wake up in bed again, bleeding from the nose. Like the land pulled me back, like it owns him. So I gave him up, left him, in Phoenix. Prayed someone else could love him. Prayed the curse wouldn't follow. But the land waited. And now that I'm dying, it's calling him home. I dropped the journal. My hands were shaking. I wasn't just cursed, I was created. The phone rings. Rule not yet broken. At 3:17 a.m., the house phone rang. I didn't even know there was a line. I let it ring 0.6 times. On the 7th. The voicemail clicked on. I stood next to it, not breathing. A voice played. Eli, sweetheart. It's Mom. I'm not mad. You've done so well. You just need to finish the ritual. Once it's complete, you'll finally be free. Click. I ripped the cord out of the wall. The phone still rang. Rule number 6 begins to crack. The man in the mirror is not you. Don't talk to him. Don't let him out. But I couldn't help it. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for what felt like hours. He mimicked me. At first. Then he stopped and just stared, smiling, and whispered, "You're not the first, Eli. Just the first to survive this long. They all break, one by one, rule by rule. You'll be next." I threw a towel over the mirror. When I returned an hour later, the towel was soaked in blood. The ritual begins. The final nights that evening, I found a dead animal on the porch today. Coyote, skinned, its blood drawn into a perfect circle on the wood. Inside it, the symbol from the journal. The seed sigil. I lit every candle in the house. But the darkness refused to stay out. By midnight, the attic was playing music again. The mirror was leaking something thick and black, and the barn glowed like there was fire inside. Then the crows screamed. Then they went silent, and I remembered the final rule. Rule number 8. If the crows go silent, run. I ran, out the back, into the field. Behind me, I heard the windows shattering, voices screaming my name from every direction. The sky turned red again, brighter than before. But this time, there was no sun, only an EYE in the sky. Watching, the ground shook, the field split open, and I saw myself, thousands of me, crawling out of the dirt like insects. Every version broken in different ways. Eyes missing, mouths stitched, limbs bent backward, and they all said, together, "Join us." Break the last rule. Previously broken rules. White heavy checkmark rule number 1. Never stay outside after sundown. White heavy checkmark rule number 2. Lock all doors by 6:59 p.m. White heavy checkmark rule number 5. If you hear music from the attic, burn sage and hide in the pantry. Do not investigate. White heavy checkmark rule number 4. The barn is off limits. You were born in that barn. That's why it calls to you. Ignore it. White heavy checkmark rule number 8. If the crows go silent, run. Only 3 rules remain. And by sunrise, all 8 will be broken. Clapperboard cold open. Final night begins, voiceover style. Hook. The land was never meant to be owned. Not by my mother. Not by me. It feeds on blood, memory, and sin. And tonight, it's starving. The reset ritual begins at midnight. The air around the house had changed. No more illusion of peace. No more pretending this place was anything but a prison wrapped in flesh. The trees leaned in. The barn breathed harder. The sky was bruised deep maroon. And the house watched me, not metaphorically, literally. Eyes, dozens of them, blinked from the walls, formed from wood knots, from wallpaper, from reflections in glass. Watching, always watching. I was no longer a guest. I was the final offering. Rule number 7. On the last night of each month, the ranch resets. Bury something you love in the backyard to survive it. That I had read that rule dozens of times. Ignored it. But now it was midnight, and the ground outside cracked open like a rib cage. That I stood on the porch, clutching the journal to my chest, wind screaming around me. What did I love? What could I bury? I had nothing to no family, no keepsakes, no one dot. And then I remembered the one thing I still held on to. My name. I dug my own grave. The backyard was soft, wet, and smelled like rotting things too old to remember. That I used my hands, fingers bleeding, knees soaked. That I tore a hole 3 feet deep and whispered my full name into the dirt, Elijah Mathis. And then I covered it back up. That I buried myself the only way I could. At exactly 12:01 a.m., the ranch screamed. Every window shattered, every mirror burst, and the field outside exploded in light. That I saw versions of myself standing in the field, thousands of them, each with different fates, some mutilated, some bound, some crying out in languages I didn't know. The reset had begun. The mirror broke rule. #6. I ran back inside. The hallway mirror, once shrouded in cloth, was naked, cracked, leaking blood, and he was free. The reflection, my other self, stepped through the glass. That he smiled, identical to me, but darker, sharper, hungrier. We're not opposites, he said. We're twins, born the same night. One raised outside, one kept below. And now, it's time for you to return to the barn, and for me to walk in the daylight. I grabbed the shotgun above the fireplace. I didn't care if it worked. I fired. The blast tore through his face, but only slowed him down. His skin stitched itself back together in seconds. I ran. He followed. Through the house, through the screaming walls, down into the cellar, where I found the final room. A chamber my mother never told me about, carved in bone, lit with black candles. I in the center, an altar made of infant cribs, and on the walls, names, hundreds of names, all Elijah, all crossed out, except for mine. Final revelation. The purpose of the ranch. This wasn't a home. It was a factory. A generational ritual site, cursed to birth a new seed every decade. A vessel for something, ancient and unspeakable. The women here, like my mother, were chosen, forced to carry children bred from the land itself. Only one child ever survived long enough to awaken. And that was me. I climbed out of the cellar just before sunrise. My mirror twin cornered me in the foyer. Behind him, the front door began to melt into flesh. The walls bled, and the ranch spoke, not with words, but with a heartbeat that shook the floor. It wanted a choice point. One must stay. One must leave. Final rule number 3 broken. Do not answer knocks after dark, even if it sounds like me. There was a knock at the door. 3 soft taps, and a voice that sounded like mine whispered, "Let me in. It's time." I opened the door and was met with my reflection. Not the evil one. The original me, standing in the sunrise, clean, normal, smiling. "You made it," he said. "You survived the rules. All of them. Now choose." The ranch was offering me a deal. Stay and let this version of me go free. Or leave. And someone else would take my place. I looked at the shotgun. At the journaled. At the mirror twin bleeding on the floor. And I knew what I had to do. The ending. A choice no one should make. I walked outside into the morning light. The ranch trembled. The barn let out one final scream. And then, the land cracked open behind me, sucked the house into the earth like it never existed. Gone. Erased. All of it. I was free. But at what cost? Final scene, epilogue style. 1 year later, I'm living in a small apartment in Portland. I don't talk to anyone. I don't sleep much. I have no mirrors. But every now and then, I hear music from the attic. I don't have an attic. But the music plays anyway. Soft, sweet, calling me home. Final rule, unwritten. You never really leave the ranch. It just waits for the next name on the list and the next knock at the door. 1 year later. Most people think survival is the end of the story. It's not. It's just where the horror changes shape. I left that cursed ranch in Bastrop County, Texas, on a Sunday morning just before sunrise. The house imploded behind me. The barn screamed one final time and sank into the earth like it never existed. The skies turned clear. The crows disappeared. And for the first time since I arrived, the wind stopped whispering my name. I walked for hours, maybe days. No water, no food, just the sun and silence. Eventually, a trucker found me wandering near Route 21, but he called me lucky that I laughed in his face that a new life, or the illusion of one now. I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Portland. 3rd floor, no attic, no mirrors, that I don't own a phone, that I pay rent in cash, that I don't make friends, that I don't go out after sunset, that I tell people I have migraines. That's why I keep blackout curtains on every window. That's why I avoid reflective surfaces. That's why I hum to myself at exactly 6:59 p.m. But the truth is, I'm still following the rules. Even though the ranch is gone, the rules stayed. They live inside me now, like seeds, and some nights they sprout. The music box still plays. I hear it sometimes, faint, fuzzy, like a half-remembered song. A lullaby, the same one that played in the attic, the same one I broke. Rule number 5 for it comes from the corner of the room. Even though I don't have a corner there, and when I close my eyes, I see the cradle again, rocking, empty, waiting. I met a woman last week. Her name was Nadine. We talked at the laundromat. She had a sweet smile, the kind of softness that reminded me of my mother. If my mother hadn't been haunted, hollowed, and devoured by the land she was bound to, that we had coffee, laughed, even joked about how awkward dating was in your late 20s. She invited me to her place. I almost said yes. But then she asked something innocent. You ever hear of this ranch outside Austin? People say it was cursed. My grandma told me about it growing up. My coffee spilled. I told her I had to go. I haven't seen her since. The crows came back 3 days ago. I woke up to their sound outside my window. Not just cawing, chanting. They perched on the fire escape, stared inside. Didn't blink. Didn't move. And when I opened the window to scare them off, one dropped something on my windowsill. A piece of yellowed paper. The rules, same handwriting, same red ink. Only this time, there were 9. The 9th rule 9. If you leave the ranch, but the ranch doesn't leave you, find the next of blood, pass it on, or be reclaimed. I stared at it for hours. What the hell did it mean? The next of blood. Then I remembered. The journal mentioned others. Failed ones, buried versions, clones, echoes. What if they were still out there? What if the curse didn't die with the ranch? The mirror man returned. I was brushing my teeth when I saw him. Clear as day, eye in the mirror I covered a year ago with a towel. It must have slipped off in the night. He was smiling again, not menacing this time, pleading. You haven't passed it on yet, he said. They're waiting. You broke the last rule by surviving. You are the reset now, Eli. You are the rule. I shattered the mirror, burned the towel, boarded the bathroom shut. Didn't matter. Now I see him in puddles. I in glass windows. I in my own reflection on dark screens. I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Inside, a photo, old, faded. A child. My face, standing in front of a new ranch. Different house, but the same barn, same porch, same symbol carved in the front gate, and written on the back of the photo, we're still building them. Every decade, one of you will survive, and when they do, they start the next ranch. I found another one. Like May's name was Henry. 6 years old. Adopted. Lives with a couple outside San Antonio. His eyes are pitch black. I watched him through a cracked fence while he played in the backyard. He stopped, looked straight at me, smiled, waved, said one word. Brother. The ranch is rebuilding itself. I saw it last week in a dream. Boards flying together, soil bending, foundations cracking, and deep beneath the earth, the cocoon was still there, bigger, hungrier, beating like a heart. The ranch wasn't destroyed. It just moved. I got a knock at 3:03 a.m. soft. 7 taps. I didn't answer, but I looked through the peephole and saw her. My mother, eyes hollow, dress torn, smiling. You didn't pass it on, Eli, she whispered. So now it passes through you. The final transformation. I don't remember what happened next. Only that I woke up on my kitchen floor. My fingers were caked in dirt. My mouth full of ash. And on my forearm, a new tattoo, the seed sigil, burnt into the skin, permanent, alive. I'm not alone anymore. They visit me now, every night. Reflections of myself, old ones, young ones, twisted ones. They crowd the room, whispering the rules, begging me to pass it on. And every time I close my eyes, I see a child, somewhere, crawling toward a new barn, crying, being left behind by someone just like my mother. And I know this never ends. End arrow final lines, voiceover style, closing asterisk. You think curses are broken by surviving? No, they're broken when you let someone else carry them. But if you don't, asterisk, you become the curse itself. Asterisk, and now, I'm building a new ranch. Somewhere in the dirt. Somewhere near you. I'll leave you 8 rules. Break 1. I'll see you soon. Asterisk.